Welcome back. After last week's video, which went viral with 30 use cases, many of you asked for a second part. So over the last 2 days, I've been working on another 30 ChatGPT use cases for you. To get started, open ChatGPT and select the ChatGPT 4.0 model. Then click on these 3 dots and select Create Image, or simply type Create Image, followed by your prompt, and press Enter. Let's start with the first use case. You can generate transparent PNG images. Don't worry too much about the prompt right now, as I'll tell you later where to get all the prompts and images I used in this video. So just relax and enjoy the video. I generated this cute sticker-like image with a transparent background. If I hover over it, you can see the transparent background checkerboard. It cut out almost perfectly except for this part that it missed, but you can fix that in Photoshop. Then I tried creating a transparent bottle. I was hoping it would make the glass transparent as well, but it seems to only cut out the background in this case. So it can save you some extra steps if you ask for a transparent PNG background in the prompt. Finally, I tried a more complex cinematic image, and it did a good job of removing the background, even though the image was more intricate. You can create fonts with letters and numbers, like in this case where I asked for a sci-fi font set. I usually use a square ratio to avoid cutting off parts of the letters. It did a great job, though it missed the number 3 here, but I can probably modify the number 8 to fix that. Then I asked for a circus-inspired font, and this time I got all the letters and numbers I requested. The last request was for an Asian-inspired font, and for this one, it missed the number 1, but still, it can save a lot of time in the font creation process. I tried creating a playing card for the King of Spades. I provided details about how it should look and the style, and I got a pretty good result. The top left part turned out really well, but the bottom part isn't exactly the same distance. However, I included the flipped letter in the design because I wanted it to be there, so the design adapts. For example, the throne isn't coming down to the bottom, and I will have enough space to move the K and the symbol into the perfect position. Then I asked for another one from the same set, but for the Queen of Spades holding a black rose, and the result is pretty similar. Again, there are some mistakes on the bottom right, but we can fix that in Photoshop. Next, I tried creating some symbols and a back design, but I encountered some errors. When that happens, I just open a new chat and continue from there. I started a new chat, gave the details of what I wanted, and the result wasn't bad, though it could have been better, and it missed the number 6 and the number 1 and 10. For a medieval look that I asked for, the result was better, though it still missed the number 6. That's okay, because I can just rotate the number 9 to get it. Then, in a new chat, I gave it the 2 cards it had generated for me and asked for a back card design to match. I always mention the ratio now in every prompt, because if I let it decide, it sometimes gives me a square ratio, even though the card should be portrait. The result was surprisingly good. I really like it, and it matches the card style. You can create stylish words and unique typography designs. I started with something simple, like this playful, lazy cat design, but it can do much more complex designs as well. For example, I asked for this design, and look how good it turned out. It would have taken me hours to do a lot of sketches, then vectorize them and so on. Now, I can just get it quickly, and vectorizing it afterward is much faster. I tried another one for AI Pirate and asked for a small skull, and it did a really good job. Another one turned out great as well. If you're unsure how to describe a design, just take a design from the internet and tell it to create something in that style with the words you provide. You can generate illustrations for t-shirts, mugs, and merchandise. I created this interesting Egyptian pharaoh design. Of course, you'll need to upscale the images to get good quality for print using tools like Topaz Gigapixel AI or similar. I initially asked for a mock-up on a black t-shirt, but it looked kind of boring. Then I asked again, but this time for a man wearing the t-shirt looking at the pyramid. Now it has much better impact and tells a story. You need stories if you want to improve your chances of selling something. You can also create simpler designs for kids, which are easier to vectorize and get ready for print. Then I asked for an astronaut design and got an error again. So I opened a new chat and this worked okay. I thought it would be interesting to have an astronaut with the text, "Give me space." It would have worked better during the pandemic when everyone needed their space. The last design I asked for was a colorful meditating llama, which turned out quite nice. It can work for mugs, t-shirts, tote bags, and so on. You can convert your images into statues. For example, I asked for a bronze statue, and while it's not perfectly identical, especially with people, it's pretty close. Then I asked for a marble statue of a cat. It came out nice, but it was a little too matte, not as shiny as I envisioned. So I asked to make it more glossy and shiny, and now I really like how it looks. Of course, you don't need a guiding image. You can just prompt for what you want. In this case, I asked for a jade dragon. However, I got an error again, so I started a new chat. This time, I provided a photo of the cat along with a photo of what texture I wanted. It could be wood, ice, iron, chocolate, whatever comes to mind. The results turned out pretty good. When you give it an image, it understands much better what you're asking for. So if you have images for something, providing them increases the chance of getting the result you want. I also tried again with a colorful art style and got this interesting owl. I really like the Netsuke art style too, as it gives nice results. Everyone loves coupons and vouchers, so you can create one for fun if you want, like the one I made here to redeem a kiss, which turned out really nice. But you can also create more professional ones, like the discounts that different shops offer. This one worked almost perfectly, except it cut out some text from the bottom. So I thought about how to make sure it doesn't cut anything important. I asked to add some flowers at the bottom, so even if it cuts some of those, it would still look good. And look at that, it works. Even though it's cut off at the bottom, it still looks okay. It's frustrating that a company as big as OpenAI can't do a 9:16 ratio. I hope they fix that. Then I asked to adapt the design for a ring with text and everything, and the results looked great. It's much easier when it can see how a design looks and adapt to it better. Next, I asked for a fantasy game coupon, and once again, I got an error. Time for a new chat. This time, it worked okay, and I got a discount for a game as requested. So yeah, it's pretty useful for creating coupons and vouchers. You can generate diplomas and certificates. I added a long prompt with all the text, but you can also provide an image or a sketch to guide it. The result was this nice design. It's impressive how it can handle such long text and prompts. And this time, it didn't cut anything from the bottom. I uploaded the previously generated voucher and asked for a color swatch palette, just to have the colors easily accessible and to work consistently without needing to use the eyedropper each time on different colors. I like that it usually gives nice color combinations that work well together. Then I gave it that diploma and asked to generate the badge from the bottom in gold and black. It gave me this, and while it's not perfectly identical, it's good enough to use on other diplomas. Next, I asked for one with fire on top and then only in black to make it easier to vectorize. I can work with that. It looks like a nice stamp. Lastly, I asked for the same style design, but for a graduation owl. Pretty cool. You can also design interface elements like all kinds of buttons and switches, as I did here. You can create player interfaces, game interfaces, or even futuristic HUD designs and overlays like you see in movies and games. You can also make buttons or lower thirds, similar to what you see on YouTube. Then I wanted to create a login screen and got an error. Time for a new chat. So I provided all the details on how I wanted the user and password fields fully adapted with ChatGPT, of course. You can also provide screenshots and other designs to guide it. The result was pretty amazing. I really like this. Sometimes I create 3D layered design cut files for laser machines like this tribal mask. These are cut from plywood, and it can be hard to pick the right color combination for each layer when deciding how to paint them. So I asked ChatGPT to give me 2 color variations in a split screen. Even though it's not an exact identical design, it's similar enough to give me an idea of how it will look in those colors, so I can decide if the combination will work before I start painting. Here's another example with a cute house design I made for Christmas. I asked for red and green colors to make it look more Christmas-like. While it's missing some parts of the design, it's good enough to give me ideas for color combinations. Here, I uploaded a cute cartoon turtle and asked it to redo it as an orange dog, and I got this cute dog now. Then I gave it this cute bear and asked for an Easter bunny holding an egg. With images as reference, it can see the pose of the character and the style. So you can use a really short prompt and it will understand what you want to do. The same thing happened with this pig. I mean, how do you describe that pose? But look at how well this black sheep turned out. Cute and funny. Then I added a prehistoric cartoon man and asked for a woman to be holding a dinosaur by the neck instead of a hammer. And I got this one. Now, keep in mind that this is very similar to the original, which was also generated by me. But if you use an image from the internet, then ask for changes like different clothes, hair, etc. You can keep the style but change enough elements to make it unique. This can help you avoid copyright and trademark issues if you're using it for commercial work. You can see how clothes would look on you. I added a photo of this woman, then a photo of this jacket, and asked to make the woman wear this jacket. The result was this image. The jacket looks nice on the woman, but the only problem is that it doesn't keep the face exactly the same. It probably gives a different face to avoid deepfakes and similar issues. As you can see, the original woman looked much better than the version ChatGPT gave me. Then I asked for the woman to wear this new dress instead of the jacket and dress, but in red instead of black. And I got this one. So while it can be enough to visualize how you would look in certain clothes, it won't be identical to you. You can generate frames for simple animations. For example, I asked for this bird, but I realized it was turning its head too much. So I asked for a blue parrot in a side view, and now it looks much better. I can work with that. Then I asked for a 3D render style on a transparent background, and it worked. It did remove the white in the eyes, but that's easy to add back behind the eye. I gave it a try in Photoshop, selected 3 frames that I liked, and placed them on separate layers in the same position. Using frame-by-frame animation, I was able to animate it with just those 3 frames. That was from the first try, but I could have generated a few more until I got all 4 frames right and created a smooth animation. Then I asked for cartoon explosion animation frames. I got this one, which I thought had a transparent background, but it actually added the checkerboard as a background, so it wasn't transparent in this case. After that, I asked for a soap bubble that pops, but I think I mentioned in the last frame that it exploded, and it added an explosion there. So I asked for a correction and to avoid adding fire, and I got an okay result in the end. I also used Photoshop to try animating this, and I got a decent result. So it worked well for me and saved a lot of time. You can create a pumpkin carving template, a simple one that you can print on paper, stick to the pumpkin, and then use a small saw to cut out the shape. You can generate templates to make the design more scary or more cute, depending on the mood you want to set. It's a fun way to design unique pumpkin carvings for Halloween. You can generate textures and backgrounds. For example, I asked for a marble texture, and while I requested it to be seamless, it wasn't quite seamless. I tested it online using a pattern checker website, and you can see it repeats horizontally but not vertically in this case. Then I generated a wooden texture, and again, it wasn't seamless. The lines are quite visible. Next, I asked for a floral, seamless pattern, and surprisingly, it was almost perfect. You can hardly tell where it repeats, so sometimes it actually gives you a seamless pattern. You can also create textures for games like these tiles. I also asked for a camouflage texture, and this one was almost perfect as well. There were just a few spots where the mistake was visible, but it can be fixed with the offset and generative fill in Photoshop. These textures are very useful for backgrounds, like this old paper texture, which turned out really well. You can even create torn paper like this one and add your text in the middle. This allows for creative background designs that help tell the story you want to share. It's great for icon design for apps and games. For example, I asked for an icon for an Android weather app, and the design turned out quite nice and clean. Then I asked for an icon for a pirate game, and again, the result was quite nice. I really like how clean it is and the style used. The way the canon is held doesn't quite work, but that's just the first try. Next, I asked for an icon for an AI app with a robot, and it turned out nice and clean as well. So overall, I like how these designs turned out. You can create fun illustrations for 404 error pages. Here's an example of a quick, simple one, but you can change the style, add some words, and make it more interesting. I could definitely see something like this on an error page, although I prefer not to get stuck on those pages. Here's another one with a cute monster. Pretty adorable, right? It's a fun way to turn an annoying error into something a bit more enjoyable for users. You can also use Kling AI to make videos from images, adding even more creativity and interactivity to your error page design. You can generate ideas for magazine covers, which can be fun or realistic to get inspiration for the layout. Like I did here with this fashion design for cats, or it can be something more fantasy, like with aliens, as I did here. You can give your photos and put them on a cover. Even if the face isn't identical, you can Photoshop your face back into the image. You can generate realistic amateur-style photos. Since AI tends to produce more perfect results, the trick to making it look real is to include imperfections. With the right prompts, you can create quite realistic images, like this one, which isn't bad. You can make it even more interesting, like I did with this Santa biker. It's fun to play with. I also made this one, and it turned out interesting. A housewife-themed image can be cool too. You can create vintage photos. I tried to create an image of a little girl with a creature, but I noticed that when using something fantasy-related in the prompt, it tries to make it less realistic. Even though I asked for a more realistic version, it still seemed to be missing something. Then, I asked for a vintage photo of Einstein without including anything fantasy, and look how cool it turned out. It even added the ChatGPT text behind him on the blackboard, and it looks real. Next, I tried a woman with a cow and a cat, and again, it looks quite realistic, like a vintage photo. Then, I tried again with a Yeti creature, and while the creature doesn't really exist, it still looked vintage, but it lost the realism once again. It had a half drawing, half photo look. I asked for a more photorealistic version, but it didn't quite give me one. The key is to play around with different prompts. Some will come out quite real and nice. If you remember in the last video, I showed that you can ask ChatGPT to put a logo on a mug, but ChatGPT regenerates the logo, making it not identical to your original, just similar. So, in order to get the exact logo on objects, we can use mockups. You can generate blank mockups like I did with this white mug, and then in Photoshop, you can add your logo on top, maybe using the multiply blend mode to blend it better with the mug. Here I created another mockup for a paper coffee cup. The easiest to work with are white objects. Here's another example for a round sign on a wall, where you can place your logo in perspective. I could do a Photoshop mockup video in the future if you're interested. Here's a woman with a white t-shirt. This one turned out quite nice, and with a tote bag, you have a nice square area where you can place your design. Then I asked for another summer version of it with a blue background and a white hat, and again, it looks really good. For the last mockup, you can present your artwork in a frame, which is quite useful if you have some Photoshop knowledge. You can create educational flashcards for learning. For example, I created one for kids with a cat in the shape of the letter C, or another example for the letter B with a bee. But you can also make them for adults, like for learning a foreign language, as I did here with Chinese. Then just ask for another word, and it knows what to do. You can create all kinds of cards, one with flags, countries, and capitals, for example, or a modern one with the solar system and planets. There's a lot of flexibility, and you can customize the cards to fit any learning purpose. You can use AI to help with ideas for shadow boxes. For example, this Easter shadow box it generated looks quite nice, and it can give you some cool ideas for your craft projects. You can also create designs for laser cutting machines with plywood, but I found that I got better results when I provided a few photos of my shadow boxes. It then suggested a new design in that style with the changes I asked for. This can really help in creating unique and customized shadow boxes. Those who make jewelry will really love the ideas AI can generate. For example, I asked for some polymer clay pendants and requested 3 ideas, and it gave me 3 in a single image. They look pretty nice. Then I asked for some earrings. I've made a few of these myself with Fimo clay, then baked them in the oven. Here are some ideas for those who have a laser cutting machine. You could cut them from wood and maybe engrave them. For those who like to work with macrame, it can also suggest ideas, though I'm not sure how accurate it is. It's a good starting point, like a sketch. And for wire-wrapped earrings, it can generate some cool ideas, though I'm not sure how functional they are, but they're great for inspiration. You can generate some cool sketches with AI. I really like this industrial sketch style with markers. For example, I created this modern toaster sketch, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Then, I uploaded a photo I generated earlier and asked to transform it into a pencil sketch. The result was quite nice for an AI sketch. Next, I asked for a colored pencil caricature with exaggerated features, and again, it did a decent job with this one. For another sketch, I asked for something more urban, an organic home with flowing shapes and unique architecture. You can draw a sketch like that, upload it to ChatGPT, and then ask it to turn it into a photorealistic image. Look how similar the real photo looks to the sketch. I'm impressed. It's great for architects to visualize concepts. I also tried a blueprint technical drawing of a bee robot. It's interesting how it came out, though the measurements and text around it aren't accurate, but the design of the bee is interesting. I asked for a one-line continuous drawing, and it gave me this. It's not quite continuous, but it still captures the single-line style. Then I asked for a stippling drawing of a warrior made from lots of tiny dots. The result was pretty good. Here's an interesting vintage Batmobile sketch, good for concept art or for learning to draw. Then I asked for a cross-hatching drawing of a monkey holding a Mayan mask in the jungle, and the result was interesting. For the last one, I asked for a kid's drawing of how they would draw their family. It's a little too perfect, but that's the AI's influence. Let's make some money. I asked AI to reimagine a 100 euro bill with a Halloween theme, and it turned out quite interesting. Maybe you can print some of these and give them to kids for Halloween. However, it messed up some of the text, and the front and back sizes weren't identical. So it might be better to generate one side at a time and then ask for the back with the same size. I did another one for Easter with a bunny, and it came out quite interesting. Then I asked to adapt a $5 bill into an Egyptian theme, and I got this version. It could work for a Monopoly-like game, maybe. I then switched to coins and created some alien intergalactic coins. To get better results, I asked for one coin, specifically a pharaoh coin, and it came out really nice. After that, I asked for another one for Cleopatra, and once again, it turned out quite cool. Some of these designs could possibly be made in black and white and engraved on actual coins. You can create some nice labels, for example. I did this cute label for homemade strawberry jam, really cute and then nice design. Then for another one, I gave it a sketch and asked for a new label, and it gave me this simple one. It's easy to print on sticker paper, and then you have plenty of labels for your jars. Here, I gave it a quick sketch I did for a wine label. It was a rough sketch, and I asked for a professional wine label with a traditional mood. Look at how it actually used my sketch and kept it pretty accurate. It turned out more interesting than I expected. I then asked to improve my sketch, making it look better and adding more details. Now it has that Italian villa-like mood. Then I asked for a bit of red to make it more dynamic, and now the label looks great. What do you think? Label design in just a few minutes. Who would have thought? Then I asked to put it on a bottle, but it somehow messed up the sketch of the house. So I pasted the label I wanted again, and this time it gave me the right label on a bottle, nicely presented. Interior design made with AI? Yeah, it's possible. I uploaded this empty room and asked to add furniture, giving me an idea for a bedroom. The room isn't perfectly identical, but it's very close, and the ideas it suggested were nice enough. Then I asked for a different setup to make it an office with a computer and a couch, and once again, it did a really good job. Next, I asked to paint the wall behind in purple, replace the couch with a modern armchair, and add some text on the painting. AI did a great job with this one too. I really like the light on the wall. So what else can it do? I gave it a photo of an alley and asked how it would look if renovated and painted. I didn't expect it to know how to do that, but again, it wasn't perfect, but it was really impressive. Then I thought, let's travel 100 years into the future, and made it an abandoned alley for another photo. It added vegetation and all the details. Pretty cool. It's also great at generating trading cards for games and other purposes. Look how well it did the design on this card. I asked for another one with a more futuristic look, featuring a robot. For this one, there were some mistakes. It cut out the numbers at the bottom. I asked it to make the card a little smaller since it was cutting off the bottom, and it adjusted, giving me a slightly different variation where I could now see the numbers at the bottom. It can also create sports cards like the one I did for a basketball player. Pretty awesome. To get all the prompts and images from this video for free, go to the channel header and click on the Discord link. Click to go to the site and accept the invite to the Pixaroma server. It's private but free. We already have over 20,000 members. You'll probably land on the welcome channel. Check all the channels we have, then go to the channel named AI2 Playstar here. I have shortcuts in that channel for all the resources. For ChatGPT prompts, just click here, and you'll find all the prompts from the video and the images. It took almost an hour just to add them to Discord and 23 hours to make this content, much longer than the first one, as I generated more images and wanted to stay more organized. If you found something useful, please leave a like and a comment to help me. Thank you to all the AI Titans for subscribing to the YouTube membership. Your support means a lot. That's all for today. Have a great day, and I'll see you on Discord.